From Bossier City, Louisiana, this is the Grouch and the Brainstorm. Welcome, everyone, to this special edition of the Grouch and the Brainstorm. So, today with me, I have my usual Matt.
What's up?
All right, Matt's here. And we have a special guest today, and our special guest has 1 year of recovery today, 1 year of sobriety, 365 days ago. This gentleman came into the lives of many of us who attend AA meetings on a regular basis, and just we have seen the change, and
Sure.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And his level of recovery, strictly depends on him and how he takes to the program. But I've seen the change. Matt has seen the change. Many people that we talk to in the rooms of AA has seen the change. But, for me to do and to tell his story is not going to happen today. What we're going to do today is we're going to visit with Chris C. from the Koala Club on his 1 year recovery date. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, man.
Welcome, man.
Glad you're here. So why don't you just introduce yourself, and then me and Matt will ask a couple questions and give you plenty of time to talk about you.
All right. Well, I'm Chris, and I am an alcoholic. I'm 37 years old. I'm married, 4 children, 3 girls, 1 boy. And you see, I'm coming up on 20 years of service here June 6th. So actually going through that retirement transition, if you will, and eventually transitioning into the civilian world. So, happy birthday to me. Whoop, whoop. Man, I didn't think that I'd make it this far, but it's been a great day to be sober. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I was a little drained. I've got a bodybuilding competition coming up next Saturday, the 20th, and right here in Shreveport. And so kind of spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, just been completely drained. But today I seem to have picked up a second wind. And I think that hit somewhere around 2 a.m. when I woke up.
Yeah.
But it's been good. So
That's what time Mike went to bed, 2 a.m.
A little bit before 2, yeah. So, Chris, 365 days, that's a long time. And 1 week, 1 day is a long time for a lot of people. Do you feel different now than you did 365 days ago?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just night and day.
Can you compare the two?
Somewhat. A year ago, I didn't know how I was going to make it to the next day. I didn't know that there was a world away from alcohol.
Yeah.
That 1 day at a time stuff just really, I'd never lived that 1 day at a time. It was always unrealistic expectations. I said, well, I could do it for a month. I can do it for a week. And I never could. Compared to a year ago to where I am now is just night and day. So I can feel it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything, as I previously discussed.
How did you hear about Alcoholics Anonymous?
Well, my mother-in-law had actually attended the Koala Club many years ago, and she was telling me about the Koala Club. I had heard about it through a coworker that's also in the program with us, and he's actually been to the Koala Club a few times. But between my mother-in-law and my wife, looking up locations in comparison to where we live out in Houghton, this was the closest place, and it's just real convenient, right off the interstate kind of deal. So this was actually my first AA meeting ever. So it was at the Koala Club.
Was that 1 year ago today?
That was 11 months ago. The day I got out of treatment, I came to the Koala Club.
Where'd you go to treatment?
Brentwood, University of Brentwood.
Fine university.
Well, as many times as I went, I call it the Brentwood Bed and Breakfast.
My mom asked me that after listening to the first few podcasts. She goes, Mike went to a bed and breakfast. I was like, kind of.
Well, there was bed, there was breakfast, there
a lot
was
of
sedatives.
Yes.
a lot of
shower shoes.
shower shoes if you got them.
If you got them.
So,
So let me ask you this, Chris. So let's go back a year or go back as far as you need to. Where was the decision in your mind, or where did it start for you? I'm sure it was more than a year ago. Where did you along the path from teenager or whatever it was go, man, this may be an issue for me? And like, where did you kind of that thought start rattling around a little bit?
Well, even into early adulthood, I had never really been a drinker. It didn't really appeal to me. I did a little bit of dabbling here and there, but it was more so when people would turn their head, I'd pour it out because I just didn't like the taste of it. And that was just beer. I never really got into liquor until later on. But I remember coming home from my first deployment, and there were these 55-gallon trash cans filled to the brim with, Bud Light and Coors and Miller and Budweiser. And I had this old crusty Sergeant Major, probably been in 40 years. And everybody's drinking, having a good time. Just got back from, deployment to Iraq. And he asked me, well, why aren't you drinking, son? And I said, well, I'm not old enough. I'm 19. He said, bullshit. You're a war hero now. So he opened up my first beer. And I remember taking a drink. And I couldn't stand it. I honestly couldn't. And when he turned his head, I poured it out. But as the years started going on, it was a couple more years too, probably 2 or 3 more years after that. It's just a gateway to everything. Every time there was a hangout or a get together or a promotion or a going away deal, it was just alcohol was always involved. So it was almost like I tried to force myself to drink, and until I finally found that one choice beverage for me, which was Budweiser. Which later on I come to realize my biological father, that was his choice of drink. So
was Budweiser?
Oh, it was Budweiser. Absolutely.
Wow.
Matter of fact, first time I met him, I was 18, and it was prior to deploying, and it was kind of on my bucket list to meet this guy. And remember, I called him up in the phone book and drove over there, and it was him and his late wife, grandson, and a couple of friends over there. I remember I had my mother with me, and we're sitting around, and it's just awkward silence. And Dad asked me, "Do you like a beer?" And I was like, "Oh, sure." So everybody just starts pulling out all these Budweisers everywhere. And I was like, "Oh, it all makes sense now," But that was then, it was a long time ago. It was nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah. So from the onset of the alcoholic drinking, drinking constantly until you found recovery, how long was that?
Oof. Good 17 years at least.
So you were out there for about 17
yeah.
years, just riding the lightning.
Absolutely.
When along the way did it go from? Because I think we all had that. That's alcohol is such a funny thing because it was an icebreaker at an important thing in your life, and it kind of saved the day, sort of. Yeah. And so we have this weird relationship with alcohol because it's helped us in the past, and I think it does with most people. But where did it become? Where did you feel like, hey, this is kind of slipping away here? Like maybe I'm overdoing this, or was there something like that? A moment like that?
And I can't really ring a bell on exactly when that was, but I can tell you, my oldest daughter is 12. She'll be 13 here in a few weeks, and so probably shortly, probably around 1 or 2, is when I started dipping off into liquor pretty bad. And, it's just completely uncontrollable. At that point, it wasn't, I had to have it on a daily basis, but it was more so when I get my hands on it. It wasn't really dependable, or I didn't depend on it at the time, but I didn't really have that chance to really go out and do the partying thing because I was in the military at an early age, and and we really wanted children at an early age. But I was the firstborn of of three of us, me and my two younger sisters, and I wanted to be the first one to have a child, but I was the last one. I was 25 when I had my first one. So, but it really didn't become a problem until, probably 2-3 years old. My oldest.
So about 9 years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I was, kind of like you. I was riding that for about 11 years, so I get that. And, did you see a progression?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's just life was getting thrown at me, different scenarios. I didn't pick up on it at the time, but over the years, different stressors and life events. When things got too tough and I wanted to run away, that's when the alcohol consumption was definitely increased.
Yeah, increased a great deal.
And it becomes almost you depend on it instead of just an occasional blow off steam, So,
well, I would imagine with recovery, in the past year, there's been some stressors.
Oh yeah.
You didn't run away.
No, I had to. I always thought that willpower was the key and motivation, but those are, to me, have expiration dates.
Sure.
And so in recovery, discipline is what I've had to focus on. When all else failed, it was discipline. So,
I say this, but Chris is you're the second competitive bodybuilder that we've had. My co-host is also a competitive bodybuilder. And,
I am. I just nobody ever competes against me in my category though. So
yeah, actually, me and Matt fall into the same category.
We don't like to brag.
Our competitions just never cross.
Yeah, no, I knew you guys existed.
We're in a different class, if you will.
That's right.
Of body.
What time do you wake up in the morning?
4, normally 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Leave by 4:30. The last few weeks have been a little tough, just because, it just throws your scheduling way off. You're doing fasted cardio for 45 minutes to an hour, focusing on abs, and then, trying to get to the office by 7 and get a workout in around lunch. And then, if you missed anything, you're trying to go in the evening, try to hit it after our 5:30 meeting. So a lot of stuff goes into it with the diet and exercise. So,
well, so normally, like somebody will come into the rooms of AA and they're new, and we see them, and they're not competitive bodybuilders. And I'm going to guess you were a competitive bodybuilder before you got in.
Yeah. So the military kind of put a burden on all that stuff. Being in, with the Louisiana National Guard, we react to state disasters, hurricane relief, such, stuff like that. So, those things could happen at the brink of a moment. You never know. So, I'd always wanted to get into it, but drinking did hold me back,
Sure.
For a while, because I was having to try to compensate for all that extra damage I was already doing in my body. So
yeah. So, but let me ask you this: if you took a picture of yourself 365 days ago, it doesn't sound that long, especially when you're my age, but if you took a picture of yourself 365 days ago and you held it up next to a picture of yourself today, what differences would you see?
Completely different, Mike. If you look at a picture, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was going through pictures this morning, and in comparison to how I look today. And then my face was more swollen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have near the white in my eyes. I just looked flushed. I did look unhappy. You could see that fakeness on that exterior. But today it's lively, brighter, happier, joyous, just completely different.
So I'm gonna brag on you for a second. I'm gonna let you expound on this, but the thing that you've done, I think Mike would agree with this. You said this was your first time through the program. You, from day one, you've gone to meetings. You got a sponsor. You did. I mean, you hammer it. Service work. You're involved in everything from the get go, and always are. Do you feel like that's been something that's helped you? What in that process did you go, okay, I'm kind of in my area here. This is my deal.
Last night, topic got brought up about having a purpose in life. My sponsor had brought that up, and I didn't really feel like I had a purpose in the rooms of AA when I first got there. Because everybody knew me. Everybody, was like, oh, hey, Chris, hey, Chris. There's Drew on the front porch. Hey, Chris, hey. And I'm like, oh, God. But, I didn't know anybody, so I felt like I didn't belong, but I felt like that was a mountain that I was going to have to climb. And now being able to see newcomers come in the room, or you just see Mike and Matt and Jennifer and Jill and Cal and Bob, everybody that comes in those rooms
sure.
now, so, you can't even go out in public, at a gas station or a grocery store. Hell, I see Mr. Ernie all the time at random places. So I'm glad I'm not out there doing things I'm not supposed to be doing. But
we're everywhere.
They're everywhere, literally. But now I feel like I do have a purpose. And, that was one thing they asked me in treatment was, what's your purpose in life? And mine was to just help somebody else that's going down the same path that I'm going down. So,
well, you have definitely jumped in with us and our bunch, and man, you just taken the bull by the horns, and we're all super proud of you, man. I was excited to get up today and knew you had a year, man. I remember that too, and nothing better,
Did you
it's
text
a good
him?
feeling.
I did.
He did.
I didn't. I forgot.
I did. I told him he had the second nicest male physique in the Koala Club behind me, is what I told him. So, no, I didn't.
I'll settle for third.
And then Mike would be third.
That's right.
So,
a lot of pressure around that first year.
I think it was. I don't think it was. It was almost like trying to prove a point, but at the same time, I don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. I got tired of doing for everybody else and not doing for me.
Sure.
Because, I did make my family and others around me suffer for what I put them through. But, I mean, look at what it did to me.
Right.
And if I didn't take this serious, then there's only two places I would have been.
Yeah.
So.
And it's weird how we have to take care of ourselves to take care of everybody else.
That's right.
If we don't do that, we're not helping them. So
I used to live on that pity potty all the time, and poor pitiful me, and and say, man, I wish I would have done this, or man, I wish I would have done that, and where could I be? And none of that stuff mattered anymore. It didn't. It matters what I do today that'll affect my outcome tomorrow. So.
Both of you guys, both of you bring your kids to AA meetings whenever you need to, whenever you have have watch, it's day for you to have the children, or you pick them up, or you're going to take them places. Have you ever asked your kids or talked to them, Chris, about what do you think about being there at that club?
Y'all see Emmy all the time. She's 6. And so, at first few meetings I brought her to, there was a birthday. So, there was cake.
Party.
And she was real interested, those first few times I brought her. And then, 6-7 times thereafter, there was no cake. And so she was like, well, Daddy, where's the cake?
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
So then it became, can I watch your phone? Can I watch your phone? But she doesn't really ask any questions. She sees Matt and Bobby and Cal all the time. She knows everybody.
Yeah.
And she's real quick to give everybody hugs. And, she saw Phil, she gives him a hug every time she sees him. So, and then I think my oldest, it had a pretty big impact on her because she was able to see most of my actions. But it's not too often I'm able to bring her. She's got cheer stuff going on or whatever going on after school school or extracurricular activities. So, but I think with her it makes the biggest difference.
Are you more, now that you're sober, are you more involved in your children's lives and activities?
Oh,
and
absolutely. I don't miss a beat. I mean, I'm even drunk Chris made it to all their functions, but I was drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either I didn't remember it or, but now it's nice to be able to see it for what it is.
Sure. Sure. You're kind of a little more present, even though mentally you're,
absolutely,
so.
Well, I know I would always try to attend whatever it was my kids had going on, but there was always the fear from, their mother and from them, what's he going to do? So very unpredictable behavior whenever you're in that state, even if you're dry, I would stay dry for the whole day in order to go to a family function. But, there's that, we talk about it in the book, the restless, irritable, and discontented person that is there watching it, and Lord help you if you're watching a baseball game or something, you're that guy that Will Ferrell is on Saturday Night Live, the skit I'm talking about where he's making a complete ass of himself at the sake of his children. So, I would imagine going now would be, a lot more to them. And over the course of time, that fear starts to diminish, and then you just become a dad, which is...
That's a pretty good feeling.
It is a pretty good feeling. Is.
And the deal too, man, with kids, like I've noticed with mine, and my little one didn't start coming into about when Emmy did, like this past year, and my other two, one of my sons comes some because he's younger. My teenager, I don't know, she may have been up for an eating thing or something occasionally, but they don't know that much about it, But my little one loves it. Same way, man. She knows everybody. What's up? Let's have some cake. So
now my middle one, the 11-year-old, she's, we had to have a sit down conversation here a couple of months ago because, she didn't. When I started bringing them into the rooms of AA, and I didn't require them to sit there and listen. If they wanted to go in the back room and play or watch their phone or something, that was fine. But, she got to a point where she was telling her friends, oh, my dad's got to meet me. He's got a meeting. I can't come over. I can't do this because my dad's got a meeting. And they would ask, what is it? Oh, it's just AA. And they didn't know what it meant. So they'd go home and ask their parents. And, so my oldest, was like, hey, you're going to have a talk with Braylon because she's telling everybody, her daddy's a drunk. He goes to AA meetings, but, nobody, no question. I mean, no questions were ever asked. No parents ever approached me. And, so I can appreciate that. But I did have to break it down to the whole anonymity thing. That way she understood that, what kind of goes on in those rooms isn't really to be talked about. But if you have any questions pertaining to it, then, hit me up. Let me know.
Sure.
You think there'll ever come a time when one of your kids may need AA?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think, just learning from what I've been through I don't know if this thing's hereditary. I'd like to think that a part of it is, even with just addiction and period. But I'd like them to be able to look back and remember these times.
And to, man, to top that or to add on to that, I have two older kids that are grown. And we were talking about this the other day, and somebody was like, "Hey, do you hope your kids wind up in AA?" And I said, "I just hope that it's here,
right,
like it is now, if they need it." That's what I want to see happen. So, they get to live their life, and my son's in Fort Polk right now. He's 20, 22, and they're going out every weekend. All his Army buddies. He goes, "Hey, Dad, we've been going down to LSU. Have you ever heard of a place called Tigerland?" I'm like, "Yeah, son, before you were even born, I'd heard of Tigerland," but that's his own discovery to make.
That's where Siegfried and Roy used to dance, isn't it?
Nah, there's some dancing down there. I don't know about those two cats, dancing. But yeah, so he gets to make his own decisions there. But hopefully it'll be there for him if he needs it, or any of them.
Absolutely.
So, Chris, being sober for a year, and it's pretty much. Well, after 90 days, going back out is a choice. It's no longer something that someone's just gonna go do and not have any control over. It's absolute choice.
Yeah.
But after being sober for 365 days, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, and one is, what do you like about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous?
Just the camaraderie. I've been used to that for the last, 20 years being in the service. And, the brotherhood in this program is just absolutely phenomenal. I can deal with family and friends outside of this program that, will tell me, oh, man, it's been a few months, man. You can handle a couple. And I'd jump right on it. I'd jump on that train like it was no big deal. But I've never come into the rooms of AA. And granted, when I made the decision to go to treatment, I absolutely had no compulsion, no obsession to ever want to drink again. But had I thought about it and brought it up into the rooms of AA, I've never heard anybody in the rooms of AA say, yeah, man, hey, let's go have a drink. Nobody's ever done that in these rooms. So I have not crossed that path, to where I've felt the need to want to drink. At this point, I just don't want to do it anymore,
Lost the obsession.
Yeah.
Is there anything you don't like about it?
No. At this point, I mean, there's some quirks about, certain folks, but I like the times, I like the camaraderie, I like the fellowship. I like the fact that we have big book studies. I like the fact that we have step studies. I like the fact that everything's very detailed because that's what I'm used to in the service. And I like that everything's on time. I like the purpose behind it. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing that I love about the rooms of AA is just the purpose behind it. Always a solution to a problem.
So I got one here. You and my other buddy, and we know your sponsor, and he's got two of y'all are real close at sobriety level, and y'all started raising that hand. You're probably gonna get to do that today to start sponsoring. What do you think about that going in with no sponsees? What do you think that's going to be like? Or you kind of? I was so nervous about it.
I think that, I think that's I'm in agreement with that. I'm nervous about it because it's not the same.
Right.
But I had a phone call the other day. I don't know if I was telling you guys or not, but I had a phone call. I was on the list for
Central office.
Yeah. And I had a guy call, and he told me, he was having some issues, and he was new to the area, and was looking for like a Zoom meeting. Well, unfortunately, I just had no experience in Zoom meetings whatsoever. And I'm a one-on-one kind of person guy. I'd like to see results. I could screw off in the background,
right.
from doing a Zoom meeting or something. But anyway, so I get to talking to this guy, and it was about a 40-minute conversation. And he asked me a little bit about myself, and I answered his questions and let him know how much sobriety that I had. And, I happened to ask him, how many years of sobriety do you have? And he just said the number 8. And anyways, by the time the conversation was over with, and I did more listening than I did talking because I'd never gotten a call like that before, he told me I'd sounded like a salesman, and that's not how AA worked. And I didn't know whether to get my feelings hurt or to get disgruntled or angry. And I was like, well, man, like right around the corner, I'm going to be sponsoring people. I should probably talk to my sponsor about this. And I did. I called him. We talked later on during that day, and I'll let him know what happened.
I can only imagine what he said.
I got to go into specifics. But, he did break it down, certain things, because it did kind of mess up my scheduling, what I thought was going to be a 5-minute phone call turned into, 40 minutes. But he gave me some pointers here and there and told me the right thing to do and said, don't let it get you down. And, you're going to deal with stuff like that. So,
sure.
Yeah. And you are.
Yeah, it's going to be the Wild West a little bit. You know, it's kind of strange, man. Right. But I think you'll too. The program you worked and the program your sponsor, and we know him, and he's a strong program guy.
Absolutely.
When that arises, and this is what I've had with me, and you start with somebody new, you're just like, oh, I've been here before. I've done this.
And he did tell me early on, when we were working the steps, it was a couple of things that got brought up, and he made sure to tell me, listen, man, I'm not going to have all the answers. So, I am going to have to run this by, my sponsor, your grant sponsor, and I'll get back with you. And he did that. He did exactly that. So I was very respectful and And that was a damn good answer for me,
Sure.
you know, to have to run it by somebody else and to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. So I can appreciate that.
I can tell you from my personal experience that I did not experience the full effect of recovery until I started working with sponsees. I just did not, you know, I felt the way you feel today, you know, and I felt good. Life was good and things were headed in the right direction. And I could see, you know, the light, and I knew if I just kept doing what I was doing, I was going to be okay. And, you know, the big book talks about, and it says it in a couple places, talks about being rocketed into the fourth dimension, you know. And I'm not going to compare it to rocketed or fourth dimension or anything like that, but I will tell you that when I got my first sponsee, something clicked. There's just some part of it that I just it all kind of came together, and I understood each one of those steps up on that wall just a little better. And the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous does not tell us to get a sponsor.
No.
There's nowhere in the book. And what it does do is teach us to be sponsors. And man, once we go through those 12 steps and we start sponsoring somebody, each one of those steps starts to take on even more meaning. And it never diminishes a step. What it does is it enhances each one of them and kind of eliminates any porous area that may have been formed when we were doing them ourselves. It kind of fills those pores with you know, for lack of a better term, it fills them with the spirituality that was needed in working with somebody. And, you know, I remember thinking to myself, I was still worried a little bit after my first year about, you know, maybe finding myself drunk one day. And I remember thinking, I can't get drunk. I've got people I've got to be working with, you know. Of course, at that time, too, I was still a fixer. I felt like I was, you know, no human power can fix somebody, but I felt like I was a fixer, you know.
Yeah.
Had good luck with my first one, and, you know, and he's still sober today. And that's been, he's probably got 11 years.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, he's probably got, right now, I say that, I'm coming up on 12, and it was the day of my first birthday. I raised my hand, and he approached me afterwards, and I started sponsoring him. So he's coming up on 11, and I'm coming up on 12. He'll have a few
That's
days.
awesome.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
That was number one. Number 2 through 750, I couldn't tell you, you know.
Wow.
And you guys are from the same sponsor tree, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever heard the word sponsor tree?
Oh, yeah.
I have not.
You've never heard of it?
Never heard of it.
So your sponsor
Me and
is
Cal have the same sponsor.
so your sponsor's
Right.
Cal and
As Bobby.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby's
So you
mine.
guys are kind of like, and when it comes to a recovery program, you're kind of related.
Yeah.
And you can tell the sponsor trees in AA.
It is
you know.
kind of, yeah.
But however, when you really get to looking at it, it kind of always has this same lineage. So it can kind of like humanity, it can always be tracked back to somebody.
Yeah.
But when you track it back to that one person has a lot of recovery. And I mean solid recovery. Like, we're not talking about quantity, we're talking about quality. Anytime you can track it back, because most of the time, I say anytime, I shouldn't have said that, but most of the time it can be tracked back to one person, and their recovery is really solid. You know, I had a sponsor, and his name was Dale, and he's gone now. And he had a sponsor, and his sponsor sponsored Phil. So when my sponsor passed away, Phil took over for my sponsor and was my sponsor at that point. And Phil had the same sponsor. So I didn't change grand sponsors. I still had Phil. And then, of course, I moved down to New Orleans, and whenever I moved, I picked up another sponsor. And you know, sponsorship is huge, and it does make this, you know, and it makes the 12th step a whole lot easier whenever you do actually sponsor someone. And you know, it's a matter of opinion whether you have to sponsor someone to practice the 12th step, because it says try to carry the message. It doesn't say anything about, you know, and I'm not going to get into a debate about it, especially as there's no controversy on this thing. So, but it does make a complete difference. So from 365 days ago to today, how do you feel?
Like a new man.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I just the amount of happiness that has overcome me today is just almost overwhelming.
Yep.
But I can't explain it.
And I'm going to tell you what Joe B told me. He's told me this every year. He always on a year deal comes up to me and he tells me something. And this is what he told me. And I've told a few of you guys, and I told Ben this. I'm just passing along what he said. This is not me. But he's right. Year one, you just kind of held on for the ride. You're like, hey, dude, I'm getting this. I'm doing it. Whatever that entails. Year 2 to 3 is where you're going to start growing. Yeah. And it's going to go real fast. You're going to be like, oh, man. In about 18 months, you're going to look back and go, oh, man, I didn't know nothing my first year, you know.
Yeah.
You do. And then now, I mean, I'm a few years in it, and I look back and I'm like, it's just so different.
Right.
And you won't notice it at first, but you're going to start, and it gets cool, man. So
that light bulb will go off.
Man, look, you've done something that a lot of people don't get the chance or the opportunity to do, and I think it's just as cool as can be. So, but
well, I this is why I wanted to interview you prior to the celebration we're going to have down at the Koala Club, and family and friends coming in, and in the emotion and the elation that goes through all of that, and actual people who've seen you every day getting to see that. I wanted to sit down and talk to Raw Chris, before he went to a meeting and discuss it, because there's some newcomer out there, right, that's going to hear this at some point, and it's not because it's such a dang good podcast or that they're going to hear it because they were meant to hear it.
Yeah. And
it may hit some cylinder somewhere where, they can hear about somebody's first year in AA, and then we've talked about on our regular show, we've talked about, the first meeting and how we felt, and we've dug into emotions, the sponsor, and getting at sponsor and how we felt, and life after we got into AA. You've covered all of that basically on this interview here. And you have you gone to CATA? You've gone to CATA.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I started going, I think 6 months.
Yeah, you went pretty quick.
Like that. That is a truly humbling experience right there. But it's great to be able to see. I don't know if repeat offenders are the same, or there's a choice word to use, but there's a lot of folks that that I've seen in the 6 months that I've been going to CATA that have, graduated CATA and then returned 2 or 3 more times. And, for those guys to come back, oh man, I remember you from, 4 months ago. Right. Man, I'm gonna see you at the Koala Club when I get out this time. I'm coming in there for real this time. That's nice.
I think what it gives you is that the action, we put the action in. And so for every 200 of those guys that come up and go, hey man, I'm going to call you when I get out, I'm coming to a meeting, 2 may actually go to 1 meeting at the Koala Club when they get out, and then those guys end up sitting here with a year of sobriety because they get out and do what everybody tells them to do. We all say the same thing.
Pretty basic, isn't it?
It is.
Really basic.
It's action.
I thought there was a lot of, this was like textbook type stuff, because I'm a simple creature. I like to see results right off the bat, and I just kept getting told, don't leave before the miracle happens. And well, here I am, So,
man, I think there's great things to come for you in life and in this program, and I am kind of anxious to see your sponsor tree, how that's going to continue. Because I think you'll do a great job with it, and I know Mike and I both are super proud of you, and you're a great addition to our group for sure.
Absolutely, I look forward to having you back on the show, and we're not going to wait till you make 2 years. You get to pop in here whenever we need another co-host or another host, or somebody with some. Me and Matt may start another podcast just on physical fitness in case you need advice.
Mike and I think alike. I was already thinking bodybuilding. A lot of people think I use steroids when they look at me, but I don't. This is all natural, dude. It's all natural.
Yeah, yeah.
They find that hard to believe.
People look at me and they think hemorrhoids. So I see
is
it.
Bluebell considered a steroid?
Well, if
at one point I thought I was going to star on a hemorrhoids commercial.
Ooh,
that's another episode.
A
different podcast.
Yeah, that's on our other podcast.
But you get to laugh today.
Yeah,
there's not a whole lot that keeps us from laughing.
No, anything for sheer comedy.
That's
the motto.
This is what I've learned, man. Everything so long for me was so serious through alcohol and drugs, and it was just a battle, and restless, irritable, and discontent. And we come in there, man, and probably the biggest thing I like is just the laughing every day. Somebody's always saying something, doing something funny. It's never mean-spirited, but, we do, man. We have a good time.
I love the humor. And there's not a day that I'm not coming to a meeting where I don't get some humor into it.
That's right.
It's literally every day. So I'd rather be surrounded by laughs and happiness and solutions rather than problems and frowns and crying. And, that stuff's to come, sure, but we can get past that.
Sure.
There is the person who comes in and definitely don't want to deter this person, but they come in and they say, "Let me tell you about my day," and they tell you about their day, and it was pretty bad, and they're pretty down about it. Well, if that person continues to have those kind of days every day, it's not the day. It's the person, and we learn in Alcoholics Anonymous that we are the problem. And we have a solution, a common solution that we share with each other on how to get through some of these things. And if we choose not to listen, then we can continue to do the things that are bringing us down. If we choose to listen, we can, do the things that get us out of some of those emotions and those ideas.
And you can by that same token, you can go in that room in the evening. You come in for a meeting. It's been a meat grinder day. You're beat up, and then somebody sits down and they've lost a loved one or something real serious happened. Yeah. And I just go, okay, shut up, you idiot. Like, bad. Ain't nothing wrong with you. Roll on. Yeah. And I'm over it, and then I think it's that helping another alcoholic, but you're like, man, I have such empathy and stuff for that person. You forget about your own junk. So,
well, again, from me, Chris, congratulations on making 1 year.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
I think we're going to go ahead and sign out and head down and have a 1 year birthday party.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Happy birthday, man.
Until next time, this is the Grouch and the Brainstorm.